Embrace your style to be marvelous. It's your time to be fabulous. Make that choice. You want the real happiness.
Hi there, hello and welcome to Soulmary Real Talk, the only real talk, multicultural real talk in Switzerland. And I'm so happy to have her today here with me. She's an amazing woman. She's an author. She wrote great books about Black women all over the world in Switzerland. She really inspired me a long time ago, and we've been knowing each other a long time. And her name is Paula Charles. Welcome, Paula. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah. So, looking good today.
Oh, only today?
Yeah, no, you look always you look always amazing when I see you. Paula,
thank you.
You're here now, so we're going to talk about you. You wrote great books, I know that, and you've been traveling around the world, introducing your book, and you've been a long time in this writing game, and I'm so happy to have you here. Paula, you were born in London, and now you're born in London, but you're from St. Lucia, and then you went back to Caribbean, and then you came back to London. Can you just tell me how that everything started?
Yeah, well, you know, again, I was born in London, and in 1956, and my mother decided after, you know, in those days there was not only poverty for white people, but poverty for Black people. It was a very hard, dark time. But for Black people especially, they had absolutely no chance. There was no way. And then she have myself and my brother Ben. So she decided to send us back to St. Lucia because she couldn't afford to take care of us. It was just too much of a struggle as a Black woman just to breathe in London. One shouldn't forget, you know, just like the States in the 60s, what was happening to the Black people over there, being beaten, killed, lynched, you name it. In London, you weren't being lynched, but you were being beaten, and you weren't allowed to walk on the same street as the other person. So we end up going back to our grandmother, living in a small hut. It's all in the book, in German, Go Josephine Go, and in English, Soul Stripping, one can read it. And yeah, so I spent it, I think I went there when I was around 3 years old, and I spent some time with her over there, and she died. And then my mother sent back the two of us to London. So I was there around 11 or 12 years when I came back to London. Yeah.
So that means you started in London and you went to school in London. That's a beautiful picture of you.
Yeah.
So how was it for you, like after when your mother gave you away and to come back to London and start a new life?
Yeah, that was hard. That was very hard. First of all, you know, I'm coming from a tiny, maybe in those days it was about 50,000 people in the whole of St. Lucia. It's a very tiny island. And a colony, obviously, from the British, and it was discovered about 14 times through the Europeans. So I had very, very little knowledge of London and absolutely no education comparing to London, you know. You just had, you know, sort of the stuff that nobody would want to study at that time because there was nothing there to study. You know, you just have the normal cheap school books and the teachers not being really paid. And so the education was really almost zero. And so I came to London, and I was very stunned that my mother had already remarried, because during that time I was in St. Lucia, my father died, and he was poisoned because my father was in the government in St. Lucia. So they wanted to get rid of him, intrigue and everything else, you know, in politics. So, and my mother was just a younger woman, if you like, an attractive woman, but she was one of many. You know, he had a lot of children, and she was the only one he finally got married to. And so with my mother, he had the two of us, myself and Ben. So I came back to London, and there was already a ready-made family. And when I say, you know, she had another husband, the husband left her, and so she was now with 4 children alone. And then she sent for myself and Ben to be able to take care of those kids. And so then at the age of 11 or 12, I was already a mother for 4 children, and she was going out there to work. And so I couldn't really concentrate on my school. I was being beaten. My mother beat me a lot. Yeah. And this is something a lot of black people don't want to talk about. They're always saying that their family is great and well, you know, you can hit them, but I'm not talking about just giving a little slap. I'm talking about literally, brutally being beaten with saucepans, which you call her cockhead, funny, and you know, being punched, being kicked, being, you know, literally let go in all her frustration on me. And she found that I was very stupid because I came from St. Lucia, but I didn't know the culture in London as yet. London is huge, you know. And so, you know, I suffered a lot at school because I was always going to school with a bruise on my body, or, you know, people saw it, you know. And so finally, yes, you know, I definitely didn't get the love and attention, you know. I was just a child, just working myself away to take care of her 4 children in a house, in a big house that you can't believe the amount of work there was. So I had to do all these things, and that's how my life started, with making me feel insecure, making me feel that I am not worth breathing. And there was a time when she said to me, you know, just go out there and lick the dirt. You know, she didn't think much of me at all.
So that means actually your childhood was not a good childhood. So
my teenage years, you could say from the age of 11, from that age, my whole life went down, if you like. I wouldn't say it really went down, because even having this situation with my mother is what really molded me, made me a person, you know. I got the love from my grandmother when I was in St. Lucia. She had nothing. She couldn't even afford a pair of shoes. But she was the most beautiful soul you could come across. And for that short time I was with her, she gave me something. And I think this thing she gave me, even with the books when I'm writing, I feel her spirit. This thing she gave me was preparing me, because my grandmother was a healer, you know. She healed babies. She could see where you're going to be and where you're going to go in your life. She was like a red Indian, because she was very, very, very fair with long hair, but just thick Afro hair. So she was very much into the herbs and everything else. So she could really tell what my life would come, and it was true what she said. And so my life started in the down spiral way, or in the hardship way, when I came to London. You see, in St. Lucia, I didn't have much to eat, much to drink, much to wear, but I had the community, I had the warmth. If they did slap me, they slapped me because I did something wrong, you know. And so, but with my mother, it was that I was, for her, too dark, you know. She prefer, you know, she think light skin is better off, and so it was a lot of brutality in my life.
So how do you feel today against, I mean, how do you see your mom now, from this moment right now?
Well, she's dead. You know, she died about 4 years ago. Look, I tried all I could to get to understand her as a woman, and I think this part I have to say, I understand her as a woman. The man left her with 4 kids, and then with myself and my brother coming into it, she had 6, but as I said, I was the one who was taking care of them, and then she went to work. So as a black woman, I have a lot of respect for the woman, not for the mother, because I think she could have been a better mother. She could have not liking only the 4 children that you have and the other 2 you didn't, which included with me. You know, she had her favorites, you know. And but the struggle of a black woman in London in the 60s, in the, you know, in the 70s, you cannot imagine what she went through. And I could never understood exactly what went into her mind, what she went through. And I think it was all the frustration, the fear, the being pushed around, being beaten sometimes, you know, not being allowed to go in front, you know, in front of the, in a rest, you know, if she was working, she's always in the kitchen. They had put them in those days. Or even as a nurse, she was working as a nurse, but they were, the clients was pushing her around and said, don't touch me, you're a nigger, you're a black, you know, you don't belong here. And it was just really a tough time for her. I don't have a problem with that. My problem is that I am your child. And you should give each one of us at least some attention, but not literally saying I have 4 children. That was what my mother was saying, instead of 6, which is me and my brother included. So, and that really hurt me real deep, and that really I got more isolated because the more rejection that I got. You know, if you keep on telling a child they are not going to be anything, they're not going to be good, that you are not worth it, you know, who's going to want you? All you are good for is probably cleaning or whatever, you know. I'm just going through my puberty very slowly at the age of 12, you know, and then you were saying these things. So that was very harsh.
I mean, when I look back now, the time for black women in that time, the 60s, the slavery time, I think most of black people, what we suffer is mental health problems, because we don't have no place to run to and talk about it. So it's about like, and I think when you talk about your mother, I think to have so much children and not have a right husband that is there, and when you've been left, you know, this pain inside, it's like if you see this child or you see the children always remind you of the person. And I think what a black people or black women, most of us, we were raised to be strong.
Yeah, and I think that word is not, it's contradictory, that word. But you know, it was normal for black women to have a lot of kids in those days because black men was everywhere. And actually this intrigued the black women. The more the black man was macho and wild and everything, that was the type of guys they wanted to go with, because they didn't have another way of educating or another way of education, you know. So, you know, that was the sort of the life that we lead in that thing that, you know, whatever crumbs that we got from the white race, that was how we lived our life, because we were worth nothing, you know. And so there was a lot of protests, and there was a lot of fight for black rights, for human rights in the 60s. It's not that we didn't do anything. Even at my young age, you know, when the police saw me, and if they saw me with 2 or 3 black girls, they came and separate us. We weren't allowed to talk together because they thought we were planning something. And and with the young boys, like my brother and everything, they not only they split them, they used to take them and then in the police station for absolutely no reason. They didn't do anything, putting their head down the toilet, beating them, you know, keeping them in the station for a night or something. Whereas all they were doing was talking together, or maybe even being together and playing their football or whatever it is. So it was very hard for black women who had children on their own, that every week there's a knock on the door and it's a police, you know, even though they did something or not. We weren't allowed to have nice cars. We didn't have any anyway, but we weren't allowed to have nice cars. The moment we were in a nice car, the police arrived, you know. They planted drugs on my uncle. My uncle was in prison for at least 3 years, you know. He never smoked, you know, but they just, this was all part of the brutality. This was all part of saying you don't belong here. But had they not gone to, had they not had these colonies, I wouldn't be here. Had they not gone to Africa and take all what they took, I wouldn't be here, you know. We wouldn't be split like this in the whole world, you know. And so that was the sort of the foundation that when I came to London and realized the amount of hate and the amount of racism and the amount of not being accepted, because in St. Lucia there was none of that. No.
So how was it for you? I mean, it's like you're a very young person, young woman, beautiful young woman. How did you deal with that? I mean, it's like, I mean, just listening to you, for me, it's like, it sounds like a movie, because this is only things that we see, like Mississippi Burning, or we see the movies when they show us the movies. But I mean, to sit to a person like that, the way you talk about it, is really touching, because it's like, for myself right now, I just like, I feel like I can breathe, because I just like, I cannot believe that a person or a human being can live under this condition every day?
Well, you know, Marietta, that's a strong point, because I can't believe that I survived it. And that is not even half of my life, you know. People tend to see you and they just really think, yeah, you know, she's like this, she's like that, but nobody really know what you're going through inside. And the egoistical problem that we have in Europe with all the wealth, that people just say to you to go and get a job, you know, or they say to you, you know, live with it, you know. But you cannot succeed in anything if you don't know who you are. First of all, I didn't know who I am as a black person, because just moving around in countries through the slave trade and everything else, we didn't know, we just landed here. Second, I didn't know who I am because of the way that I was treated as a child, as a teenager in London. You know, I mean, when I came to London, I was completely confused with all this brutality and all this harsh reality, whereas everybody hold me. And in St. Lucia, my grandmother, you know, she didn't have much, but, you know, she gave us her wisdom. You know, she gave us her soul somehow, you know, and even at my age, and I'm over 60, I'm still thinking about it, because, you know, it's not the blank, and it's not all these things. It's somebody giving you something from their soul or their heart. So it was very difficult for me to see the brutality in London, apart from my mother's situation. And there I have to say, for my mother, is that she didn't know any other way, you know, where she was taking all these attacks. My mother was working finally on the bus, you know, where they were giving the ticket in those days, you know. You probably don't know it, because they had those machines and they take out the ticket. And you know, so, you know, the brutality she was taking from the white public, because I don't think one really realized the deep racism that was in England. And what I also went through in Switzerland, I don't think people grasp.
People don't talk about England. People most of the time talk about America. I mean, it's like when you talk about racism, black racism, people always talk about America. You never, I mean, for me, this is the first time having an honor to have somebody like you talking about England, that the racism was very strong in England. Well,
you see, the thing is, Marietta, what I came across in I think some parts of London in this day and age, but also in Switzerland for many years, black people do not want to talk about it. You know, they come here and they think, look, I suffered, especially the immigrants or the refugees, or however you want to call them. They come here and they hope for a better life. And they do not want to go into those pages of those books that I have written, or with these dark things, because they're thinking, look, I know it, you know. But the reason why I wrote these books was that I wrote it for my daughter, I wrote it for my grandchildren, and I wrote it for black people to know what was going on in this country and in London, you know. Because if you don't tell them, they don't know. And so black people came here, I'm not saying all of them, some of them, came here with look, I want to earn some money, I want to have a big house in Africa or in the Caribbean, I want to have a car, I want to have this. And I met a lot of them that was like that. I was never like that. I am not a materialistic woman. I am a humanitarian, you know. And they didn't understand my language, because they were thinking, what do you get out of this? Oh, you are still working as a sales girl, or oh, you are still doing this, you know, what have you got? But the richness that I have is by actually having this platform today, and the other platforms that I have, and the other organizations that are interested in what I'm doing, you know, because I am here for change. And I cannot see changes in the racism or in the humanitarian section if I don't come there and really provoke in another way, and to give something that can make the people move with those changes. But I have been doing that for many, many years in Switzerland.
So with 21, you came to Germany. So what made you choose Germany, and then you end up in Switzerland? How did everything happen?
Yeah, you know, again, let me make that very clear. Living with my mother, I was, as I said, I was a mother to my children, to my mother's children. Could you imagine? I had 4 children by the age of 12. Good grief, you know. So I was a mother to her 4 children, and I didn't really have friends, because I was forever in the house, cooking, cleaning, taking care of them. Of course, I managed to go to school, but I was half asleep in it because I was so tired of all the rest of the stuff. So I didn't know the outside world. And when I mean, I knew it, but not so, because in those days we kept our parties at home, bottle parties. We kept it at home. We didn't go to clubs. It was too expensive and very rare. So when I left home at the age of 16, I had enough of all this stuff. I had good jobs, funny enough. You know, I had good jobs in London. You know, I even worked in Westminster, you know, but they always found me sleeping on my desk, you know, when I should be working. And I was also going out to parties, partying, because I didn't have it when I, you know. Yeah. So finally one day I got pregnant at the age of 18. I had my daughter at the age of 19. And that is what all typical black Caribbean people would say, yeah, we wait for the next one, another one, and another one. And that was if I'm being very raw, because it's in here, you know, the first time that I made love, I got pregnant, you know, and he
was from Germany.
No, no, that was in London.
Oh, okay.
I got pregnant in London, you know, I was still in London. And he was Nigerian and I'm Caribbean. And so when I got pregnant and had the child, I realized I couldn't take care of her by myself. I mean, I could, but I was living in the ghetto, you know, somehow. My mother didn't live in the ghetto, but I was living in the ghetto in a council flat of 16 floors. And most of all of us that was in there was young mothers, very young mothers, even younger than me, 15, 14, you know, whatever. And I decided, and I thought to myself, I'm not going to make the wish or the dream of my mother come true, that I would end up with the ghetto with 6 kids and being, you know, beaten and whatever it is by the guys. So I decided to ask the father of my daughter, who's a Nigerian, if I could send my daughter away. Well, first of all, I asked my mother and she refused. She said, no, I'm not going to be taking another child. I have 4 children, but most of them was already out of the house. That was really another point of putting the screw inside, you know, because I didn't want to send my child away. Which mother wants to do that? And I did, and from there I knew if I sent her away, I have to try to change my life, but I don't have an education. I left school at the age of 16, you know, I didn't know much, and I didn't know the European culture much, you know. So I end up, after sending my daughter away, or even before then, I end up as a chambermaid. You know what a chambermaid is? No. A chambermaid in German is I was in German, Putz. I was cleaning the hotel.
Ah, okay.
Ja, ich habe die Hotel geputzt. Aber es gibt einen Namen.
Nicht Putzfrau, nein. Also Hausmädchen.
Ja, genau so etwas. Ja. Ich muss, so anyway, I had to do that. Because I had stayed with my daughter a bit long, and because of also that I never stayed in the jobs that I was in, because of my youth, I was disturbed. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't trust in myself. I didn't think I could do anything. So finally I ended up there, and then one day I met a girl named Bonnie, and then I don't know who had this West Indian newspaper. I don't know whether I bought it or whether someone bought it, which is a very rare newspaper, West Indian newspaper. And then I looked it up, and then I was just reading it like everybody else. And then I saw they were looking for hostess. Now, hostess for us in London, or at least the way that I was taught, I am a huge reader. I read a lot. You know, I educate myself, so I know what hostess is. You know, and so you are hosting somebody like you are hosting me. You know, and. So they were looking for girls to be hostesses, and naive me, I decided to apply for it, and then they said yes, but you know, it was very complicated. People have to read the book to find out how it went through. He had his office in Mayfair, somewhere there, you know, and myself and Bonnie, I found a friend to come with me at work, and we went there, and then he made a contract. Already the contract was there. I didn't know he was a gangster. I didn't know whatever he was, you know, maybe a pimp, I have no idea, but everything was really perfect in that office. I've never been in such a beautiful office in Mayfair. He spoke, his English wasn't bad, so we understood, and he said we shouldn't show the contract, and blah, blah, blah. We didn't understand why, but anyway, the contract was in German, even though we went to school for German for a couple of days, you know, to brush, you know. And that's how the story started. We didn't realize what we were carrying. He said to hide it in our breasts when we get to Weil am Rhein. Yeah. And you know, I had only 50 pounds. I didn't have much money. My daughter I had already sent my daughter away to Nigeria, which was a big pressure on me because I was very worried about how they would take care of her. But I wasn't wanted by my mother. I wasn't wanted by somehow her family. So I was just there as a young teenager, having been through so much. I thought the best way for me to do is to get out of the country. And
I mean, it's like, you have 3 books. I mean, this story, the way you say that you send your daughter to Nigeria, your books, are there special like stories that you can say in this, like this story right now? When somebody listens to this speech that we have right now, which book would you, let's say, tell somebody to read it?
I would say to them to go, Josephine, go, and that's in German.
This one.
Yes,
This is one.
This is the book that made me popular all over Switzerland.
This is your first book?
This is my first book. And if they want to read it in English, they can read The Soul Stripping.
Okay,
this is in English.
Yeah, that's mean the first you gotta go, Josephine.
Yeah, because of the title, Go, Josephine, Go, people tend to think it's in English, but it's a German book by Limat Verlag. Okay. So they can read this. It's a very powerful story.
And then they should go to the other book.
And those who speak English or who wants to, Soul Stripping. Yeah. And this hopefully will be coming in French as well later. Yeah.
But because time is running a little bit, so I mean, in the end, you end up in Zurich. Yeah. As a go-go dancer. Yeah. I mean, this is because of the German guy. I mean, this guy took you to Zurich to be a go-go dancer without you knowing. Actually, you were thinking completely.
Very different. When I got in Weil am Rhein and I was told that I can't go to Germany, and I didn't understand why. Okay, I didn't show the contract because I didn't think there was something bad in it. I was just listening to him, and I want a passageway to move on with my life. And then they find out that I was carrying a contract that he wanted me to do probably modern go-go dancing in that place. And finally, we did, as I said, we did get to Germany in terrible situation with our psychological self. I had to tell Bonnie to go back to London that same evening because they only were interested in me for the moment. And when I got to Germany, Valerie, that was, don't forget, we arrived at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were in the customs. I was in the customs for about 4 hours. They were just going at me and said, "Wo is the Vertrag for line?" and so many other things they were asking. And finally, I got into Germany with, I call him Honeypot, Mr. Honeypot. Yeah. And then I realized the world of danger, when I got into the nightclub, I've never been in a nightclub. I saw all these things they were doing to the women, and I mean, I can't say it on here. And then I said, look, I don't want to stay here. I want to go back to London. All of a sudden I panicked, and he said that, didn't you know? I said, I don't know this thing. I've never been here. And then I started crying, obviously, because I realized I don't have my best friend with me, and I only have 50 pounds. I came only with 50 pounds. And then finally, then all of a sudden, Herr Muller appeared. A guy appeared. I don't know if that was planned, but this guy was from Switzerland, a short guy, and then he said, well, they didn't want me to leave the country, so he brought him along, and he said, I'll take you to Switzerland. And he took us to Switzerland. He took me to Switzerland. But what happened was that I had to try and find Bonnie at Basel, in the Basel train station, because she was waiting to go back to London in that night, and they said, okay, but I was barricaded with these 2 guys. I couldn't run away. I couldn't come out, they were there with me like this, and so, but they did agree that they helped me to find Bonnie, and I did find her at the train station, just about to take the train to London. Thank God she even had enough money. I gave her all my money, actually. I didn't have any money left.
And then you came to Zurich. And
then first they took me to Hornessen, which is a small village. And we were the only 2 black girls there. They've never seen black people before like me, as dark as me. There was mixed kids, but it started there, and he threatened me with a gun, or he threatened us with a gun, that we shouldn't say anything to the police, we shouldn't talk to the clients why we are here, because I didn't know we didn't have any permit to work there, and it wasn't allowed. And he paid me very little, and it was 50 francs a night, And from that 50 francs we had to pay for our room that he gave us and for our food, and so we had nothing left. We were always almost hungry in this rich country.
So that's mean like you went from London and from one nightmare to another nightmare, actually. And so how did you end up in Zurich? I mean, it's like you live now in
Well, you know,
Switzerland.
first of all, they tried to sell me off to, you know, he looked for an agent, Meyer in Honessen looked for an agent because he thought they could make money with me. And so they started, Behrens was the name of the agent. He came there and then he looked at me, and when I was dancing, I had to dance about 8 or 9 times a night. Obviously, I was shown how to do this, and then, you know, the other girl that was there, she was from South Africa, so she taught me what to do, but I was very ignorant in this field. And then I had to drink all sorts of alcohol, which I never drank in London, you know. And finally, they found this agent who he made me started in places like Neuchâtel and many other places outside Zurich, and then afterwards bring me into Zurich. And Zurich was brutal.
Yeah, because this is a time, I think, this is a time where a lot of black women actually they were in Zurich, but they didn't even know what was going on. Because most of them, they were brought by white men from another country, like many African women. They met white men in Africa, and they came here because they promised them a better life. But most of them actually end up in the Langstrasse.
Well, I didn't come there with anybody. I came here somehow just believing in this contract. And I just wanted to have a better life, but no man brought me here, nobody brought me here. I was just very naive and believed with blue eyes that I'm going to come here and be a hostess and whatever that it caused. And they absolutely ruined my life. And the other thing that I had to do was that I had to drink more than 10,000 francs champagne a month, you know, and if I didn't drink the champagne, I was on the streets, you know, because that was where they make their money. So I was just an exotic thing, and there was absolutely no respect. I saw the women being beaten black and blue. They dragged them from the floors and you know, threw them outside. You know, it was, comparing to today, it was a very, very dark and brutal time for black women, because you didn't have the digital era where people can make a quick picture or a quick movie, or it's quickly there. Even black women was killed, and black men was killed, and no one talked about it, you know. So I was in Lausanne, and I had an interview just like you were giving me there, and they were saying to me, Paula, actually it still happens, but no one talks about it. And I think the reality I'm trying to bring here, it's not about blaming white people. It's not about blaming. It's about, let's face reality. Let's face facts, you know. I am not just a thing. I am a human being. And what I'm looking for is respect, you know. You don't have to accept me the way I am, but, you know, at least with respect. I don't do you anything. You think you own me. You think you can tell me what to do. You judge me even without talking to me, before talking to me. You know, for you, I have to get the worst of everything because I don't worth it. And I don't want to be somebody that I have to impress you, you know. You, just the way you treat your own people, you treat me the same. And I'm also trying to bring out the confidence of black people. You know, to not always think, no, I don't want to lose my job, or I don't want to not to stay in my apartment, lose my apartment. I don't, you know, all this sort of stuff. You know, how are people going to see me and think? I am not coming here to give the people here honey. I'm coming here to give them the lemon, the real reality of the pain, the mental pain that we go through, the rejection that we go through, the misunderstanding that we go through. Just because I'm exotic, you know, I am not a sexual beast, you know. So that's what brought me that day when I finally saw what was really happening to me. When they decided, well, the agent said to me, you can work in Zurich, and I worked it, well, not far from here, you know, St. Pauli and many others that I work on. St. Pauli was the brutal place to work, because it was about 20 of us, well, 10, 15 girls you know, wham, bam, take your chance, wham, bam, take your chance. And once in a while they would have, you know, these cabaret. But they sent me to a big cabaret, a very important cabaret. I think that was in Bellevue somewhere. And he wanted me to drink, and he wanted me to go to a separé. I've never heard of a separé before. You know, I mean, I have, but I didn't know. And I said to him, what's that? And he said that you have to go into the room, into these separés with the men and all. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. And he said that you have to do it. You signed a contract. And I said, well, I didn't fully grasp what you mean by that. And he said to me, well, you know, you have to do these things because the men are going to pay you a lot of champagne. And
so that means like when you had a man, you need to drink champagne, like.
Yeah, that champagne was the main thing, and the man is not going to pay you that champagne without him getting something. You know what I mean? And I do not have to go into the real reality of everything, but it is literally selling your body and doing things that is very uncomfortable. What I saw the women was doing there in those days was.
So which book is right now this more of this story?
That is again Go Josephine.
Go Josephine. So
yeah.
This book here, it's one of the greatest. This is the book that you gave it to me.
Yeah.
Soul Stripping.
Yeah, in English.
This is. I think this is a good book for young
for
ladies,
international, for young people.
Yeah, for young people.
Yeah.
I mean, young women like me or young people like.
Yeah. But what I mean is, it is the same book, Go Josephine Go and Soul Stripping, but. I find out a lot of young people, they like to read in English.
Yeah.
You know, they want to improve their English and so forth. So, so there is a lot of interest in this English book. Yeah, and it's more international. You know, so.
So then you got married. You met your husband. Yes. So I need to ask you that because we're running out of time, and I mean, you have so great stories. You have so much stuff we can talk about, like 3 hours. And I think really, I mean, it's like for every black woman who's an activist who really want to know more what's really going on behind the scene of black women, you know. So
and white women and white people.
White women. Yeah. So it's really nice, you know. Really, you should get a book from Paula, and
hopefully it will come into I will find some producers or whatever that would come in, made it into a movie, something like that. Yeah.
Believe. Well, and you did already. I mean, you wrote 3 books. I mean, it's like it's a lot. I mean,
I hope the 4th one is coming because I have already written it. So I just hope to find. Well, I have found a publisher, but I have to see what they think about it. Yeah.
So I mean, maybe you got married. You met your husband.
Yeah. So, the most wildest Swiss guy I have ever come across. You know. And there are not that many of them. Presumably, I like very good looking. I met him in a bar on the Niederdorf. He walked in there, and it was very funky or whatever he was doing. At that time, I didn't know he was taking drugs. Yeah. But he was a hairdresser, but one of these sort of high-class hairdressers. You know, he traveled and flew here and there and what have you, and that was very new to me. But what I loved about him was that he could speak a little English, and he was very entertaining. And I fell in love with him, at least that's what I thought, you know. Maybe because I was also very lonely, very isolated, because I didn't move around with these dancers, because there wasn't much to say. Most of them were sleeping the whole day because of all the alcohol or selling their bodies. So I had no connection with them because my heart wasn't in this thing. You know, I just landed there. I was put there. How am I going to come out? And I didn't want to go to London, so they think that if I told my family, I mean, that would be a shock. I mean, you know, I didn't come from this background, you know. So, so I fell for him, and he was married and to a Indonesian, and I guess because I was in love with him, I did a lot to get him, you know, and yeah, it was a relationship that had a lot of fire and up and down and sometimes fights. I don't mean literally fight. We weren't physical, you know, he was in sort of the fashionista like you are, you know. I mean, he knew what was going on and everything, but he wasn't doing anything to move me forward. Of course, I learned the language and everything, but everything was quite secretive, you know. And it was his world of meeting all these guys and all these girls who who took the white powder and all the rest of the stuff that I had never seen. And obviously I tried it and it didn't work out for me. I never understood it because I had the pressure of doing that. It's in the book. And through this, I actually, after all that I went through, I said, I've got to find myself. Who am I? You know, constantly being with people that took my vulnerability. You know what I mean? He can tell, he told me how to do my hair, how to dress, how to this, how to talk and everything. And he had class, but he didn't use it for himself. He used it for me. And I think through this, I have to give him this. This is why I am the person that I am also today. He molded me.
So that's like, it was like a gift. It was like a
in another way, yes.
Yeah.
Because don't forget, I was going to write a book and he said to me, do it. The night I came from the nightclub, I left the nightclub, they sacked me with this nightclub, and I came home and we were living in Oberland. He was living in Oberlandstrasse, here in the Niederdorf. And he says to me, I said, I'm going to write a book, and he said, do it. And the next day, I got an Olivetti typewriter. In those days, tack, 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 tack. And I couldn't type, but I was typing with my 4 fingers, and that's how it all started. So he saw that I had something that he couldn't put his finger on. But he was also scared to lose that woman, because I was no longer playing the vulnerability that got him to rub my face or hug me and hold me. I was trying to stand on my feet, and I wanted this black woman who's supposed to be that, and not everybody's thing and everybody's darling. That you know, always just agreeing with everything everybody say. And deep down inside me, that wasn't bringing much to me. I was beginning to see what was happening to the black people here, to the black people in England, to the black people. I was beginning to collect information in my head.
So you start standing for yourself.
And I started standing for myself.
So you start being like a strong black woman, you know, like independent.
I didn't really literally go out there and say, but...
You know, I mean, for me, it's like being a strong woman. You don't have to shout that you're a strong woman. You just have to be in a room and people can feel it. That's what I see when somebody's a strong person. I don't believe like you have to say it. You don't have to say nothing in life, in the world. You just have your presence, your energy, your spirit. So Paula, I mean, what is your what would you do or say to black? Because we figure out like many black women that suffer from self-esteem. So what are you telling these young women, you know, who don't have self-confidence, you know, like?
Yeah, that's a very good question, you know, because this is exactly why I am here, to show them. This was a woman that had felt inadequate. This was a woman that had lost her self-confidence. The only thing that I didn't lose was my pride. And the only thing that I didn't lose was my dignity. There was a limit to how far I would go. But I think, you know, through all the process and, you know, we are all talking about mental health issues and everything else. And that is coming out more in the process. I don't know how I survive it, Marietta. I read a lot of books on positive thinking and power of the subconscious mind. And I did a lot of, you know, I played tennis and jog and walk and run and everything else.
Many ways, many masters.
Sorry?
Many ways, many masters.
Yeah, you remember?
Yes.
And all these things gave me, they were speaking to me in the way that I was thinking, you know. And what I say to the young people is that, you know, first of all, they have to have patience with themselves. You know, because, you know, when you get into this situation, it's not from one day to the next you are going to get better. You really have to have patience with yourself, and you have to choose the people that is right for you. There is no need to try to play a game with them that it doesn't suit you, you know, because you are only giving them your power, you know. So you have to sort of, you know, find ways of picking the right friends and you know, get yourself busy, you know, and I don't mean just, you know, just get yourself busy doing things for yourself, you know, educating yourself on this matter, because finally you are the only one that know you best, no matter how young you are, you know, you are the only one that know you best, that you can help yourself. But, you know, there's nothing wrong in going to a psychologist. You know, if you think that, I never did, you know, if you think that is the thing for you, don't be shy about it. And, you know, and being able to talk to your friends, but knowing who you are speaking to, knowing that person have your interest at heart. You know.
But are you also doing like seminars? Can people book you? Like, you know?
Yeah, they can book me.
Because I think
yes.
that would be so beautiful to have somebody like you, because there are so much events going on, you know, so people can book you and
yeah, I mean that's what is being done right now.
Yes.
I didn't even know, you know, I wasn't in the scene for the last 15, 20 years,
Welcome
and people
back.
are calling me.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah.
So we are running off the time. So way of your lifestyle, I'm a little bit interested about that, and I'm going to ask you few little questions. Are you spiritual?
Yeah.
What is spiritual for you?
Well, I'm not a Buddhist officially, but I pray in Buddhism. I say my mantras.
So,
you know, yeah, and many others, not only these ones. And because for me, it's more a philosophy. I do believe there is a higher power. I am not frantic about it. I'm not nuts, you know. I know my journey. I know who was there protecting me, taking care of me. And I'm glad that I didn't cut corners, even though sometimes I wanted to cut the corner to arrive where I wanted to arrive. So I believe in spirituality. It's very important for me. I don't do anything without it.
When you think about Africa, what comes up on you?
Well, I am an African, you know. Originally, as far as what my mother said to me was that we are from Sierra Leone. But Africa for me is the powerhouse of black people, black history. We were the first to start, you know, to have businesses and what have you. The more you go into the black history, you find out. And strength, you know, strength and respect, you know. When I went to Nigeria, there was a lot of respect and there was a lot of strength that I got out of there, you know, to say, look, you know, believe in your blackness, believe in yourself. Don't sell that. Don't try to be white. Don't try to be something you are not, because it doesn't bring you. Finally, it doesn't bring you anywhere. White people are white people and black people are black people, you know. And I don't really mean that in a negative way. What I mean is that our journey is so different. Our history is so different. We are slaves, and we were taken as slaves by white people. So
yeah, I mean, for me, it's really an honor really to have you on my show, because you talk very straight. I mean, you're kind of person like you sound like a strong activist. You sound like a person who don't fear nothing. You know, it's like, because most of people, like, they always reserve things. They don't say you just say everything, because that's really beautiful, and I feel honored that you're like that, because you don't find a lot of people.
Well, I'm not
like
going
that.
to get anywhere by if you want bullshitting people, you know. I'm not going to get anywhere by you know, I did that before. Smile at the white people when in my heart it wasn't true, you know, because then I keep them quiet, or they think I'm nice, or they think I'm a good person, or they think I'm kind, or they think I'm even better than the other blacks. It's not, that's not me. I had to put up with all these games, you know. But in the last 20, 30 years since I wrote this book, people think that I look that I'm afraid. I am only afraid of things that I don't know. Everything that I'm talking about, I lived it. I only write about the things that I live with. And it's my truth. I don't expect everybody to like it. I don't expect everybody to understand it. You understand what I mean? But this is Paula Charles, you know. What you see is what you get. And you ask me a question, I give you an answer, because you owe me nothing, I owe you nothing. You know what I mean? And that is the only way we can move forward.
So Paula, where did you get your energy? There's a special tea that you drink that you have so much energy.
Well, there is quite a few things, but I won't say. But one thing I have to say, you know, I also have my I have my license in yoga. You know, I can teach yoga. So I do a lot of yoga. In the last times I haven't been doing it that much, but I'm hoping to get back for myself.
So are you giving class, or you just
No, I'm not giving classes, and I'm actually quite busy with this, and this is actually my very foremost, the thing that I really want to bring out there, the books and the struggles of the black people and or the black women and so forth. You know, yoga will, you know, yoga
so
will
yoga
come.
is your balancing.
Yeah.
So for yourself, just to balance
at the
yourself.
moment.
At the moment.
Yeah.
So Paula, thank you so much. A big thing. If you have 3 wishes, which one will be?
To see that Switzerland and the world come to understand the black plight, you know, to understand and to really acknowledge what the white people have done, and to be able to support what you are doing, to support what I'm doing, and that we move forward as humans. But at the moment, black people are in a fux, and we've always been in a situation where we are the second or the last bit. So I have something to read here.
So Paula, thank you so much for being today in my show. It was an honor for me.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing your great books, and you have a present for us.
Yes.
So we're gonna listen.
Yeah, this is a tough bit. White privilege. Black lives matter for real. Do we have to get on the streets to be seen and heard? How many times have we demonstrated? How many times have we said enough is enough? How many times have we cried? How many times have we shed blood? How many times have we said we are sick and tired of being sick and tired? We have tolerated your silence. We have tolerated your ignoring our plea. We put up with you looking down on us, giving us the leftovers that left from your white privilege. It wasn't enough to see us still suffering after 400 years of oppression. You made sure you kept your knee on our necks and kept it there after 400 years. The knee on the veins of our neck was to make sure we never stand up and breathe. We wanted freedom. Every man and woman needs freedom so they can express themselves. Freedom is healthy. Freedom is life. Freedom is human rights. After the chains was removed from our necks and feet, it is still there. You push it aside. We carried the pain of our ancestors who was beaten, belittled, lynched, and burnt because of the color of his skin. We were minding our own business in our motherland, Africa. We were happy with all the goods God gave us. Beauty, beautiful strong skin, beautiful thick hair, strong white teeth, beautiful smile, loving our brothers and sisters, living in peace with one another. You came with your whips, guns, alcohol, with your white outfits to frighten us. We had never seen such violence. We did nothing wrong. You took our diamonds, our gold, our land. That wasn't enough. You took us by force. Men, women, and children put chains on our necks and feet and ship us like cattle onto the many ships you build so you can prosper through our sweat and blood. We live with losing our rich land. We lost thousands of our people through all this inhumane treatment. You stripped us of our dignity, our pride. You raped our women, stripped our men of their capability of providing for their families. Watch them being scorned, degraded. How much can a man take? Do you understand the meaning of degradation? The meaning of lost generation after generation? Not truly knowing who you are and why you are in a white man's world you never wanted to be. What we are asking you white privileged people, it is time to wake up from your comfort of looking the other way and confront your historical past. Let's speak truth. We no longer want to tolerate your past. We no longer want to help you feel comfortable in your skin to listen to our plea. We no longer want to feel the brutal pain which you have caused by keeping your knee on our necks. We are not asking for charity. We are asking for change. We are asking you to take your knee off our necks. We stand to take back our pride and black privilege, which we owned. It is our right to live a good and wealthy life with none of your envies that you are the white race who deserve the best with little pain. Your wealth was built on black blood. All we ask from today onwards that you accept and respect us. Stop being biased. Let us come together and listen. This is a deep conversation. No pretension, no rush to a quick fix. This time, changes must take place. You are joining us protesting in this new revolution. This is not a prop. This is not a game. This is not trying to be nice. This is Black Lives Matter for real. Are you willing to share your white privilege? Are you willing to share your white wealth? We have seen you protest with us, but this time you have protest on a grand scale. The young white generation do not want to carry the burden their white ancestors created. You too carry that burden. This is the time for Black Lives Matter, and we are ready to make a change that will benefit all colors of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And thank you for allowing me to read this.
It's okay. It's very nice. Bye. Bye. We completely forgot. Bye.
You want a real happiness.